stop everything for a second. Right now, as we speak, billions of prayers are flooding the heavens. From every corner of the globe, in every language imaginable. People in desperate situations, packed cathedrals, and lonely bedrooms in the dead of night. Billions of voices crying out at once, all wanting to be heard, all asking, all waiting. But yours? Yours was the only one that went straight to the top. You didn't get put on hold. You weren't stuck in a queue waiting for approval. You didn't need a middleman, the perfect theological words, or a specific level of volume. Your prayer broke through. Stick with me until the very end, because before we're done, I'm going to give you the exact protocol to activate what this prayer has already set in motion. 3 simple, actionable steps you can take today to anchor what's been opened so it doesn't pass you by. But before we get there, I need to talk to you about what happened before you clicked this video, because you didn't end up here by accident. It wasn't the algorithm. It wasn't just having a few minutes of free time, and it wasn't a distraction. You were brought here. I know what you've been carrying over the last few days just to make it to this moment. There are nights when you finish praying and the silence that follows isn't peace, it's a void. You close your eyes, you speak, you wait. Sometimes you repeat yourself. Sometimes you try to find better words. Sometimes you just sit there, hoping his silence will finally answer yours. And nothing. It's not a lack of faith. You have faith. It's that specific physical sensation of talking to the drywall, as if your words hit the ceiling and fell back down cold. You see other people sharing their testimonies. You see their miracles show up fast in public, with proof and a timestamp. And in the quiet of your own room, without telling a soul, you find yourself asking, "What about my prayer? Where did it go?" It's not envy. You don't want to take anyone else's blessing. It's that specific ache in your chest that nobody sees but everyone knows. It's your heart recognizing what belongs to you, yet realizing it hasn't arrived. There is a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from praying for the same thing for a long time. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual, with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. There is a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from praying for the same thing for a long time. It's not that you've given up. You're still here. But every time you start that prayer, there's a weight to it. Like you're filing a legal case that's been gathering dust on a shelf for years. You pray, but you feel the fatigue of someone who has said these words more times than they can count. And sometimes, in that space between waking up and starting your day, before you've had time to put on your armor, a quick question flashes through your mind. Is he even listening? You push it away. You reject the doubt. You declare the word. You cover it in prayer. You act in faith, but the question happened. And you know it happened. You're still standing. You're still praying. You're still here. That isn't a small thing. It's the most courageous thing there is. To keep going when the silence tests you more than the answer ever would. Hitting the like button on this video is your public amen. Heaven records what you confess openly. Do it right now. I heard every word, every single one, even the ones you didn't finish, even the ones you thought but didn't have the heart to say out loud. Now I need to tell you 3 things that will change how you understand what is happening to you right now. First, the silence you heard after your prayers wasn't absence. It was the sound of something being processed at a level you can't see yet. When a prayer is direct, when it breaks through without detours or interference, it doesn't make a sound on the way down. It makes its noise upon arrival, and that arrival is already on the way. But the prayer, it's already been received. Second, before this video ends, you're going to receive the direct prayer protocol. 3 specific steps to anchor what your prayer activated. This is so that what's been set in motion doesn't pass you by unrecognized, so that when the answer arrives, you aren't looking the other way. Third, you are going to leave here with a position statement, not a motivational quote, a spiritual sentence of faith that you will use as an immediate response whenever the enemy tries to question if you were heard. A sentence that ends the debate. Stay until the end. Don't break the connection. Before we move forward, I have to tell you something quickly. There was a woman who had been praying for months with 0 results. She started the Breakthrough Journal, a 21-day protocol designed to unlock blessings that feel stuck, not because of a lack of faith, but because they lacked a structured 3-phase cycle: breaking, clearing, and taking possession. On day 12, something that had been stagnant for 2 years finally moved, without her having to ask again, and without her fully understanding how it happened. If you feel like your prayers are reaching heaven, but the answers are getting stuck on the way back down, the link is in the first pinned comment. That's all for now. Now let me show you the signs that your prayer actually went straight to the throne. Because they are showing up in your day-to-day life. They're happening to you right now. You just didn't know what to call them. Close your eyes for a second. Look away from the screen. Take a deep breath. What I'm about to say doesn't work with divided attention, and you'll want to be present for every single one. The first sign is the unexplained interruption. You start doing something, a task, a conversation, a plan, and you just stop in the middle of it, for no apparent reason. A thought enters your mind and you just stand there for a few seconds. You called it a distraction. You blamed yourself for a lack of focus. In reality, it's the processing of something that was received and is being translated into your level of perception. Heaven doesn't make noise when it's working. It interrupts. The second sign is the out-of-time memory in the middle of a completely ordinary moment. Doing the dishes, stuck in traffic, right before bed. An old promise pops back into your head. A scripture someone gave you, a prophetic word from years ago, something you had almost forgotten because so much time had passed. You called it nostalgia. Maybe you called it missing the days when you had more faith. In reality, it's a confirmation being sent back to you. Memory isn't random when it involves a promise. It's a signal. The third sign is discomfort with the old. Something you've tolerated for a long time. A situation, a relationship, a pattern, an environment has started to chafe in a way it never did before. You haven't made a decision yet, but you're suddenly uncomfortable with what used to be fine. You called it irritability or impatience or being ungrateful. In reality, it's heaven creating internal pressure so that what needs to leave, leaves before what's coming arrives. The new can't fit where the old is still taking up space. The fourth sign is the strange quiet. Recently, maybe after a prayer or in the middle of a hectic day, a stillness came over you that wasn't a one peace. It was a deposited peace. You didn't produce that feeling. It wasn't meditation or breathing exercises or effort. It just descended. You called it exhaustion or being burnt out. In reality, it was the answer arriving before the physical manifestation. The peace that precedes the provision is always greater than the peace that accompanies it. The fifth sign is the coincidence that wasn't. Someone said something, you read something, a video popped up, a song played, and the phrase, the word, the message was exactly about what you prayed for. Not just close to the subject. Exactly it, with details you haven't told anyone. You called it a coincidence because you didn't have another name for it. In reality, it was an address confirmation. The answer knows exactly where you are. It's tracking you, not the other way around. If 3 or more of these signs have shown up in your life lately, this past week, these last few days, you don't need to ask if you were heard anymore. The question has already been answered. You were just reading the response in the wrong language. Starting today, you know the language. Type "released" in the comments if this word reached you. There's a woman in the Bible who prayed so intensely that the priest at the temple thought she was drunk. Hannah. She was at the tabernacle, moving her lips, but no sound was coming out. Just her lips moving. No voice. She was at a level of prayer that goes beyond what language can carry, where a groan is more honest than a word, where the intensity is all on the inside, where the surrender is total and silent at the same time. And the text says something very specific about what happened. The Lord remembered her. It doesn't say he finally heard her after a long time. It doesn't say he decided to act because she was persistent. It says remembered. As if Hannah's prayer had been kept, not forgotten, not lost, not ignored, but stored with precision, waiting for the exact moment to be converted into an answer. Hannah's problem wasn't the prayer. It was the timing. And timing belongs to God. Your prayer was also stored, not lost, stored. There's a principle in wave physics that long-distance radio engineers know very well. Some frequencies can't break through certain layers of the atmosphere. They hit, reflect, and get stuck in a loop between the ground and the ionosphere. Nobody receives the signal. The transmission happened, but the receiver never hears a thing. But there is a specific frequency, narrow, precise, technically called the skip frequency, that pierces through every layer without being reflected back. It goes straight to the receiver on the other side of the world, without fading, without interference, and without waiting. Engineers call this direct propagation. Most prayers travel on common frequencies, loaded with anxiety, conditions, deadlines, and negotiations. They arrive, but with interference. They're heard, but with noise. They ask, but they're still trying to control the answer. The prayer you made, the prayer of someone who has nothing left to negotiate, only to surrender, who can't set conditions anymore because exhaustion took the conditions away, that prayer travels on a different frequency. It doesn't scream. It penetrates. Hannah didn't scream. She whispered. And the priest who accused her of being drunk was the same one who, after understanding, declared, "Go in peace. May the God of Israel grant what you have asked." The prayer that looks weak on the outside is often the one that traveled the furthest on the inside. If you identify with Hannah, or with the signal that breaks through, tell me in the comments. Let me stop for one full minute. Because before we go on, I need you to hold what you just received and let it land. Today, at this very moment, billions of prayers went up. Most of them carried weight, hurry, conditions, and bargaining. Yours carried surrender. And surrender is the rarest frequency there is, because most people are still trying to fix things on their own while they pray, still offering suggestions while they ask, still controlling the outcome while pretending to let go. You've reached the level where prayer is no longer a negotiation. It's a placement. You placed into God's hands what you can no longer hold. That doesn't happen for everyone. It isn't automatic. It isn't weakness. It's the result of something you went through that broke the layer of control that existed between you and total surrender. You went through something that cost you the illusion that you could handle it alone. And that loss, which felt like a defeat, was actually what purified the frequency of your prayer. And here is who you are in the middle of all this. I wasn't testing your perseverance. I was removing what would have stopped you from carrying what's coming. The weight you felt wasn't abandonment. It was preparation for a load greater than you could have handled before. The first identity you carry is the bearer of the rare frequency. You went through a season where praying cost you something. It wasn't automatic. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't celebrated. It was an act of pure will against everything you were feeling. You prayed while exhausted. You prayed without seeing results. You prayed when logic told you to stop. In that cost, your prayer was purified of all the noise. Only the essential remained, and the essential breaks through. Not because you did everything right, but because the cost stripped away everything that was in the way. You are the kind of person whose prayer doesn't get stuck in the atmosphere. You've been calibrated to break through. That's not a compliment. It's a responsibility. Because when you pray for others, that frequency goes with you. When you intercede with a signal that arrives. What this identity authorizes is for you to pray for those who can no longer pray for themselves. Your frequency reaches where theirs can't. The second identity is the stored, not forgotten. You lived through the long silence. The kind of silence that doesn't last for days. It lasts for months, maybe years. The kind of silence that tests whether you'll keep going or quit. You kept going. Sometimes stumbling, sometimes doubting, but you kept going. And every prayer you made in that silence wasn't lost. It was accumulated, like Hannah, stored with precision, not forgotten by accident. Heaven doesn't have lost files. It has files that haven't been opened yet. You aren't waiting for a new answer. You are on the eve of the delivery of everything that was stored, all at once. The answer that's coming won't be for one prayer. It will be for all of them, accumulated with interest. What this identity authorizes is for you to stop treating the past silence as evidence of abandonment. It was a deposit. You're at the bank, not in a line. The third identity is the receiver on the eve. There is a pattern that appears repeatedly in the chosen throughout history. The answer doesn't come in the middle of the cycle. It comes on the eve, when everything feels quieter than ever, because the silence of the eve is different from the silence of absence. One is the silence of the void. The other is the silence before the arrival. You've learned, maybe without realizing it, to tell the difference. You are here, in this video, at this specific moment. This is a sign of the eve. Your mission now isn't to pray more, or ask more intensely, or do more. It's to position yourself to receive. Open your hands. Stop trying to control the format of the answer, the deadline of the answer, or the channel the answer comes through. What this identity authorizes is for you to stop trying to help God decide how the answer arrives. It already knows the way. You just need to be present when it knocks on the door. Write in the comments which identity you recognize in yourself. Bearer of the frequency, the stored, or the receiver on the eve. And subscribe to the channel, so the next word finds you already positioned for what's coming. Now, the protocol I promised from the beginning. It's called the Direct Prayer Protocol. 3 steps to anchor what's been activated. This protocol doesn't create the channel. It anchors what's already open. The channel was opened when your prayer broke through. The protocol ensures you don't miss the window. The first step is vocal recognition. Today, before you go to sleep, in a moment of quiet, you're going to say out loud, not in your head, not in a formal prayer, but in an audible voice. My prayer has been received. I don't need to repeat the request. I need to prepare for the answer. Say it once, clearly, without rushing. This isn't a decree or some positive confession technique. It's recording out loud what is already true in the spiritual realm. What heaven has confirmed, you confirm on earth. The second step is identifying the signal. Take a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone now or after the video ends. Write down one of the 5 signs I listed that you recognized in your day. Just one, the clearest one. Write the sign and today's date. This creates a physical record of what heaven has already sent. It turns a perception into evidence. And evidence, when doubt attacks, is the counter-argument that has no reply. The third step is the posture of receiving. For 21 seconds, exactly, count them if you have to, you are going to stay with your hands open, palms up, in complete silence. No asking, no decreeing, no words. just receiving. Positioned physically to receive communicates to the spiritual realm that you are no longer in a posture of anxious waiting. You are in a posture of active receiving. Open hands say more than words sometimes. After the third step, you will feel a stillness. Not euphoria, not a chill, not intense emotion. If emotion comes, that's fine. But that's not the sign. The sign is the stillness. A calm that isn't numbness. That's the sign that the protocol was completed correctly. Euphoria is noise. Stillness is presence. Over the next 72 hours, 3 things will be thrown at you. Not as a possibility, but as a certainty. I need you to know their names before they get here, because a named enemy has less power than an unknown one. The first is retroactive doubt. It doesn't arrive as a direct question. It arrives as a memory, a past failure, a bad decision you've already left at the cross, something you haven't fully resolved, an old conversation. And with that memory comes the question that sounds reasonable. Do I even deserve this answer? Don't answer the question. Don't try to argue with it or prove you're worthy. The tactic isn't the memory, it's the question the memory carries. Declare out loud, what has been received in heaven cannot be revoked by my history. It is sealed. Once is enough. The second is artificial urgency. It arrives as a situation that feels desperate, that screams for immediate attention, that creates pressure for you to make a decision right now. It tries to pull you out of your receiving posture and put you back into anxious resolution mode, where you're in control, where you're fixing it, where you aren't receiving. Before you act on any urgency in the next 72 hours, pause for 60 seconds. 1 minute. Ask in the silence, does this actually need to be solved by me right now, or is it being used to move me from my position? Many urgencies vanish completely in those 60 seconds. The ones that don't, you handle with peace, not anxiety. The third is prolonged silence. This is the subtlest and most effective. Nothing might happen immediately after you close this video. No visible manifestation tomorrow morning, no life-changing phone call, no dramatic sign. And that silence will be used to say, see? It was just another nice video that didn't change anything. You fell for it again. Remember the sign you wrote down in step 2 of the protocol. Read it again. That is your physical, dated, recorded counter-argument. The answer is already in motion. You already have evidence on paper. Silence in the visible world is not an absence of movement in the spiritual realm. Your biggest opponent in the next 72 hours won't come from the outside. It will be the part of you that still wants to control the format of the answer. That wants it to arrive exactly how you imagined, on the deadline you set, through the person you expected, along the path you already mapped out. That part will try to convince you that receiving passively is naive or lazy. It isn't. It's the most advanced posture of faith there is, because it requires you to trust what God sees more than what you can calculate. Type "protected" in the comments. The decree has been sealed. Close your eyes for a moment. Place your hand on your chest, not to feel your heart beating, but to mark your presence. To say with that gesture, I am here. I haven't left. I have received. Now I want you, consciously, in this moment, to let go of the weight of having to prove your prayer was heard. You don't need to defend that to anyone anymore. Not to the enemy, and not to yourself. You don't need to ask for more confirmation. You don't need to carry the proof. It's been delivered. Heaven received it, and heaven doesn't return what it receives. I saw that night when you finished praying and sat in silence, waiting for something that didn't come. I was in that silence. I was in that stillness that felt like a void. It wasn't a void, it was my presence in a form you didn't recognize yet. I saw when you looked at someone else's blessing and felt that ache you didn't tell anyone about, the one you called something ugly because you didn't know the right name for it. I know the name of what you felt, and it wasn't envy. It was your heart recognizing what belongs to you, but hasn't arrived yet. It's a sign that it's coming. I saw the exhaustion of asking for the same thing. Not the exhaustion of not believing, but the exhaustion of loving and having to wait for what you love. That is the kind of prayer that doesn't need volume to arrive. Not because you were more persistent than others, but because you were more honest. And honesty, in heaven, doesn't need an amplifier. It already breaks through. What is yours is sealed, not by your performance, but by my name. You are not the same person who started this video. What was activated today cannot be deactivated by tomorrow's silence, or the day after's doubt, or next week's delay. Go in peace, not as someone who is waiting, but as someone who has already received and is on the way to meeting what has been sent to find you. Amen. Type "done" in the comments, because it is done. If this video reached you today, there is one specific person in your life who is also carrying the weight of a prayer without a visible answer. Not a group, not a list. One person. The one you know is in that long silence. Send this video to them today. Not tomorrow. Today. So they also know their prayer wasn't lost. That it was stored. And if they want to go deeper, if they want to understand the full 21-day protocol to unlock what's been held back, the link is in the first comment, waiting for them just like it waited for you. The next video continues this journey. Don't miss it. It is done. You are not the same person you were when this message began. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual, with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.